Democrats are feeling about Mnuchin and his record. Bloomberg's Kevin Cirilli spoke with New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez, who's a member of the Finance Committee, during the hearing today. Let's listen.
Well, they still left me with deep concerns. To try to argue that the reasons for an offshore corporation in the Cayman Islands or anywhere else is other than to avoid U.S. taxes and tax laws is pretty incredible. He was making profits through his clients and that, and so does that give you the moral authority then to go ahead and be the Treasury Secretary who have to go after these entities? I'm not happy with his answers on foreclosure with One West, the bank that they ultimately purchased from the government. Thousands of families, seniors, and service members were ultimately kicked out of their home. And to say you're sorry now or you regret it is not really to all of those families.
I want to stay on this question regarding the answers that we heard from Stephen Mnuchin, but when you look at the math and which Republicans would be able to flip, you heard from Senator Dean Heller, for example, from Nevada. He asked some pretty pointed questions, but realistically, it's going to be difficult for Democrats to block his nominations, correct?
Well, look, my effort in the nominating process of any nominee is to get to the heart of whether they are capable to run the office that they have been nominated for, whether their philosophy is one that will help the American people and help serve our government well, and to bring out the truth. And so whether or not we can flip a Republican at the end of the day is not my main focus. My main focus...
Are you hopeful, though, that you will?
I certainly hope that if Republicans hear some of the testimony, that it will cause them to think about whether the nominee is worthy or not.
Quickly, Senator, because I know you are busy, I do want to ask also about what we heard in regards to Mnuchin being the leader of the administration on tax reform. You clearly, along with some of your Democratic colleagues, have concerns about his own handlings of tax. But what does it say that this will be the person in charge from the administration standpoint to negotiate with Congress on tax reform?
Well, I'm not surprised that the Treasury Secretary designee would be that person, but I have to be honest with you. What I've heard him describe as tax reform is that 0.1% of the top wealthiest people in the country, they'd get $1 million tax cut. Middle-class working families would get $1,000 or less, and the working poor would get $100. And you'd blow the deficit of the nation even further. So I don't know that the 0.1% of the wealthiest people in the country need $1 million tax cut while working families get $1,000 or less. So if that's his tax philosophy, we've got a lot to talk about.
Senator Menendez, quickly also on Dodd-Frank. Are you concerned at all about just how much appealed of Dodd-Frank?
As someone who lived through the process of the worst financial crisis in the nation's history, the last thing I want to do is to have a policy that privatizes profits and socializes costs. And that's what happened in the collapse that we had. The financial markets went way out of bounds. It ended up causing costs for all of us as United States citizens. They got the profits. We got the burden. That cannot happen again. So when you talk about reforming Dodd-Frank, you got to definitely show me that we're not going back to those